Hello, Garland Nixon here with Laith Marouf. We got some interesting things going on in the Middle East. We've got a new emperor in charge of the empire. Let's talk. Hello, Garland here, and big news: Laith Marouf's really outstanding YouTube channel, freepalestine.tv, is back up, so you can go there and get there and see everything that he's doing. It's freepalestine.tv, and that's his YouTube channel. So go there and check it out. They're back up, and that's good, great to know. Is there a lot of censoring going on? Oh yeah, but something weird is going on with the empire. We got plenty to talk about. Also, go to freepalestine.video. That's their website, and on that website you can see the fantastic work. Really good video. You will be surprised that from where that website started to where it is now, it's truly a professional website with great work. And of course, there's a donate button there, and you can click on the donate button where you can donate, and you can be a monthly member, a monthly subscriber, and donate monthly. So please go to the video, even if you can't, whether you can or can't donate, share it on all your social media platforms. Laith Marouf, let's start here. This is, I'm a layman here to only know what I've learned from you about the Middle East. Here's what I saw, and I find it interesting. I'm watching videos, and they're talking about the hostage exchange. Number one, Hamas has given these gift bags, or the Palestinians, to their as they release the, I guess, hostages. We'll call them hostages for the purpose of this. They've given them gift bags and let them go. In the streets of Gaza, people are out by the thousands, and there's thousands of Palestinian fighters. Well, apparently the Israeli people have been seeing the videos. They're enraged, but not at the Palestinians. They're enraged at their government, and they're saying, you told us that you killed 80% of them. You told us that you defeated them. And so they're looking at it, to me, as a layman, notwithstanding the horrific sacrifices that the people have made, it looks like a sound defeat. I don't see any other way to see it. And then I read that Hamas is going back to business, that they're putting policemen all out, they're getting their services going. Israel said they will defeat Hamas, and it almost looks like any other U.S. imperial war. The U.S. goes in, they say we have to defeat the communists in Vietnam, the Taliban, and in Afghanistan, whatever, and then when they leave, whoever they were supposed to defeat comes right back to where they were before. Kind of seems like we're seeing the more things change, the more things stay the same. Your thoughts, Laith Marouf?
Yeah, well, look, I think we're having now a moment to actually analyze fully what just happened. We were all in the midst of this genocide and war that we've never expected. Things have happened in them that are shocking to everybody. So now that we have this breather and we actually can analyze correctly what happened, we can see that the Zionist colony actually has been defeated from day one, October 7th. The resistance had defeated the Israeli military. And in order for this Israeli military and the Zionist colony as a whole to continue existence, the empire, with all its resources, all its branches, all its capabilities, had to be directed to the defense of the Zionist colony. And if once we understand that the Palestinians were not fighting anymore the Israeli colony, they were actually fighting the whole empire and all its capabilities. And then we can see that it was 16 months that the Palestinian resistance in the extermination camp of Gaza, 22 kilometers by 7 kilometers, that's the whole area, withstood the whole might of the empire. And then we look at it even closer and we see that if the empire, only one component of it over the last 16 months was diverted its capabilities away from defending the Zionist colony, it would have collapsed. That includes something as simple as the supply route that the Emiratis, Saudis, Jordanians created to make up for the Yemeni blockade on the Red Sea. If that didn't happen, the Israelis would have been starving. If the Turks decided that the oil and gas that they were supplying and the diapers that they were sending to the Israeli soldiers were not going to be sent, the Zionist colony would have collapsed. So in reality, the Palestinian resistance in Gaza has been able into a standstill. That is, I think, the most glorious military victory any people have fought in modern history. Even though it is not fully liberation of Palestine, but think about it, in the next few years, if any of those components that we spoke about, including, for instance, the military, the media might of the West, and or its legal defense of the colony, if any of those components are absent in the next years, it's already the end of the Zionist colony without one bullet being fired.
You know, one of the things that I said, I was talking to a friend of mine about this, and he said, "What do you think?" Let me throw this at you. I've said this. I said, "Oh, they did this, you know, whatever. Did Trump betray?" I said, "They did this to save Israel. That's what this was. They looked at Israel. We have been reading for months that the Israeli military has been screaming at the top of their lungs, we can't fight anymore. Our soldiers don't want to show up. Our military wasn't built for this." And emotionally, they weren't built for this kind of a fight because they're fighting for domination, not for freedom. If you're fighting for freedom, you can fight a long time. If you're fighting for domination, you get kind of tired in a hurry. That I think it is conspicuous. A couple of things are conspicuous to me. One, we've been hearing our whole lives, oh, Israel controls the U.S. When those guys went over there and said it's over, it's over. I think that Israel, as quiet as it's kept, is ready for it to be over. That they were maybe even begging the United States, you got to get us out of this. They're impoverished. They are cut off from the world by the Yemen. Their military, their people and military is probably just about to revolt. They're running out of stuff. Trump's coming in. They probably are the U.S. between these two wars is probably running out, and we're probably just about out of missiles and everything else to get. They don't want the world to know. We're just about out of everything between two wars. Not only, in my opinion, is Israel in collapse, the military might and ability of the U.S. empire is also in a terminal situation between these two conflicts. They've been worn down to a nub. Your thoughts?
You remember maybe even a year ago, I said on your show that if the Zionists used to have a lot of say in the empire, that after October 7th, they were demoted to a full vessel because their military is not anymore useful to the empire. The American generals had to come in on the ground to lead the effort. All the surveillance and air power and supplies. The Israeli military, even infrastructure like their industry, was destroyed by Hezbollah. Their relevance as a transportation hub was gone. Their economy is destroyed. So, and there's a lot of other vessels around them, like Egypt and Jordan and Saudi, that can do anything that master wants in the White House. Okay, so in reality, they've lost fully their sovereignty, not even their ability to project power. And nothing that they're doing right now is not at the orders of the White House directly, and they cannot move one thing as Israelis without approval of the White House. And you are right about the United States needing this to end. You know, Trump knew that the empire has dedicated all its capabilities, from its media to its military and everything in between, over the last 16 months, just to maintain this standoff in Gaza, that it wasn't going anywhere. And if he wants to revive American imperialism in the Western Hemisphere, as he's like now saying with his new dictates about, you know, militarizing the border with Mexico and declaring the cartels as terrorist organizations, which authorizes him to use force, basically, and the removal of 20 million supposedly citizens from the United States and taking Greenland and Canada, that requires attention of redirecting and focusing the might of the empire that he wouldn't be able if he's engaged in a war in the region here. So yes, this is the main reason that Trump ended the war in Gaza and declared the ceasefire. And he, you know, I think the only thing that stopped Biden and the cabal around him from stopping this war was because they are 100% Zionist committed. They would burn America for Israel. On the other hand, you know, Trump is a imperialist, is a colonialist, is a capitalist, just like them. But he would throw at some point, as we see right now, or at least leash his Zionists. Maybe he's not going to throw them under the bus, but he will leash them when it's harming the United States, as we see at this point.
Yeah, I agree. I think that you know, here's let me throw this at you. They're very powerful people, right? And they don't care about United States, Israel, whatever. They're international, right? You take the Saudis. The CEO of Aramco, the biggest corporation in the world, Saudi Arabian oil company, is also on the board of directors for BlackRock. When you start threatening the money of BlackRock, when you start threatening the investments worldwide of BlackRock, I mean, as an example, they're threatening the Iranians, and the Iranians say, if you attack us, we may blow up all of the oil infrastructure in the Middle East. Well, the Saudis can't be happy about that. BlackRock says, well, gee, that'll wipe out the Western economy, and we control $9 trillion of the Western economy. They don't give a crap about Israel. It's about their money. I suspect you're going to see, I suspect the Saudis, Trump's tight with the Saudis. I suspect you'll see the Saudis, other people, that this is what I suspect you'll see quickly. We got to start rebuilding. They come in, that stops the Israelis from doing anything or whatever they start, you know, rebuilding. You're going to see BlackRock and Saudi money come in there, right? I think that they looked at it and they said, you're threatening their money. You know what I mean? That's all Israel's about anyway. It's about controlling the Middle East so they can make more money, controlling the oil so they can make more money. When Israel starts threatening their money, they're going to stop that. You know what I mean? This is not really about Judaism or Zionism. Those are all fronts. This is about their money. And it got to a point where, you know how they do liability, balance sheet. You become a liability. I suspect people are like, oh, AIPAC is so tough. Oh, Netanyahu. When they said to Netanyahu and AIPAC, shut up, this is over. You're going to take a defeat, and that's that. Not a peep out of them. I went to AIPAC's website. We support the deal. I looked at the Congress. All of these arch-Zionists in Congress, radio silence. whoever the powers that be that control trillions of dollars, when they said it's over in APAC, the Congress, Trump, Biden, all of you guys, it's over. Do you understand? They all said, yes, sir, I understand. This is the real power. What do you think?
Oh yeah, look, I mean, when he was signing all these executive orders with the new emperor today or yesterday, I mean, they asked him openly, "What do you think about this ceasefire? Is it going to last?" He says, "I don't know, and it's not our war." Okay, so I think this is a warning to the Zionists themselves. Okay. The other thing that they asked him is like, where are you going to go for your first visit? And he said, traditionally it's the UK, but the last time I went on my first visit outside of the US to a foreign country was to the Saudis, because they put $450 billion purchase of American products. Today, if they put 500 billion with the inflation, I'll go to Saudi, right? So he's also, this is what's good about him. He knows that he's the emperor.
Yeah.
He doesn't need to appease anybody. He will help his buddies in Israel and Saudi and so on, but they will be made to act publicly that they know their place. I mean, can you imagine an emperor like Biden being slapped around by Netanyahu, a country of just 7 million people that nobody in the whole planet likes? Okay. That's a humiliation for the imperial seat, you know? This man, he was like, you want me to defend Israel? Well, you're gonna act like you know who's master. Similarly, for the Saudis, you want your oil fields to be safe? Well, you openly will come and get milked, okay?
You got to
Like a
put some money in
cow.
my hand. Put
No, no,
money
I'll
in my
milk
hand.
you like a cow in front of TV, and you're gonna say thank you for pulling on those titties. Okay, this is what it is. They're gonna. It's amazing. It's amazing. I think we live in a. He's right when he said this is a new era for America.
Yeah.
He's going to be more blunt than his first term, because he's got nothing to lose. He's just whipped all his enemies inside the U.S. And
What is his one book? In his one book he wrote, in one of his books he wrote, take a careful note of those who betray you. He wants some revenge. He wants some revenge on people. That's true. But you know what? I think the world, to be frank, is Blinken, Biden, they could never tell the truth. You can deal with a guy who comes up and says, look, put some money in my hand. We can talk. We can talk. I understand who you are. You're not trying to fake me out. And in the same way, Trump has this now. What is it? The Trump crypto coin. Have you seen that? And it's making like billions of dollars. But here's the thing. I'm all right with that, because I know what you're doing. You're saying I'm the president and I'm going to get paid. You know what? I understand that. Biden just had to pardon his whole family because they're crooks, they're criminals, but they're doing it underhandedly in a criminal way. Trump is going to do it right in front of your face. He's going to say, I'm the president and I can use my image to make a crypto coin and make billions. And here's my crypto coin. And if anybody wants to buy it, buy it. And I'm going to get paid. But the whole world knows you're using your presidency to make money. But I'm okay with that because you're telling me that you're doing it. You know what I mean? I understand that an empire is a criminal operation. So if you're going to use it to make money, you're not faking me out. That's what you do. And to me, I think the world can deal better with an administration that's straightforward and says this. The mafia doesn't come to you and say, we're saints and we're here to help your children. The mafia comes to you and says, you want to open a restaurant in this neighborhood, you got to give us 25%. But in return, we'll make sure that nobody else can open a restaurant within 5 blocks. So you're going to get something out of it. But you're dealing with the mafia. They don't pretend to be a saint. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. Oh, yes. I mean, look, when I was watching it live, his inauguration speech, and I was amazed at how fast he was able to change the whole direction of the empire. When he opened up with saying, my first decree is going to be basically militarizing the border with Mexico and declaring the cartels as terrorist organizations. Second decree, which is going to allow him to use military force in Mexico. And then third decree is to reactivate the 1798 act that allows him to deport people without trial, and create concentration camps and deportation camps, whatever you want to call them. So he's going to war. And that thing about Panama, saying the canal, the Chinese have it, we're going to take it back openly, and I'm going to change the Gulf of Mexico to the Gulf of America. He's going to war with all of the Central American countries from Mexico to Panama. That's what it means. And he needs to stop not only the use by China of the Panama Canal, but of Mexican territory, because China built multiple ports in Mexico and train tracks to transport the goods from one side to the other of Mexico to reach the Atlantic without going through Panama. So this is really part of the plan. He wants to cut off the ability of China to export to Europe through the whole of Central America. And if he's going to do this, the whole world right now is going to move towards that direction of outright occupations, expansionist. I mean, he said we're going to expand our territory. He used those words in his speech for the first time since. Okay, this is a new age. I don't know how all of the Western Asia and the war in Palestine are going to fit in all of those, but I think we're going to discover very fast. We're right now, within the next 6 days is the end of the ceasefire in South Lebanon. And by the end of February is the end of the ceasefire in Gaza. So from now till the end of the week, we'll see if the war restarts in Lebanon, or is he going to leash them even more and make sure that they pull out of Lebanon? If he doesn't, then maybe he's preparing for a bigger war that we don't know. If he's throwing us all those distractions for the war that's going to happen. I don't know. I can't predict this man, and which makes him a strategist, a good strategist. Think about it. I hate him. I hate the kind of policies that he's going to produce to the world. But really, he's definitely the first American emperor in a while that is dedicated 100% for his country's, betterment, for not the benefit of the rest of the world. Obviously, we're all going to suffer.
Well, let me say this. Here's what I think, and here's the signals. And then we'll get back to the Middle East, but here's the signals. They asked Trump about the Ukraine war. He said, Putin's going to decide how it ends. He said, hey, we've come to Russia's border, and they're uncomfortable with that, and I understand that. He says, I'm going to call the president of China. He called them and says, we're going to bring peace together, and we had a great talk. I got to go meet with him. Here's what I think. Trump is representing, again, the Black Rocks, et cetera, the people. They're looking at the world, and they're saying, I kind of think our hegemony is over. It looks like Russia's powerful. We don't want to screw with them. They can kill us all. And we're rich. We don't want to die. Russia, you can have your sphere of influence. China will be all right with you. You can have your sphere of influence. And we're ours. We're a region. We're going to become more of a regional power. But it is a realistic view of the world. They're still imperialist, but it's a realistic view that militarily we can't dominate the world. So we'll dominate what we can, and we'll back off in China and Russia, and we'll say, look, we understand now. It ain't like it used to be. So you go ahead and have your piece of the pie. You go ahead and have your piece of the pie, and we'll back up and we'll take our piece of the pie. I think that's the way they're viewing it now. Whatever we can hold on to around the world, we will. But I think they're backing down because they realized they were going to get themselves killed. and everybody else along with it. And those billionaires don't want to die. They don't want their economy. They want their money, and they're figuring a way there where they can keep their $9 trillion if you're BlackRock, maybe advance and get as much as they can, but not screw it all up. What do you think?
Oh yeah, look, I mean, the brilliance of his imperialist, ideas is that there's nobody that's going to be able to challenge the United States in the Western Hemisphere. It's not like, let's say, Syria was 2 countries away from Russia, or Iran that has actual borders with Russia through the Caspian Sea, that's so close to China and so forth, or North Korea that has borders with both Russia and China. You don't want to fight right there at the border of those your enemies, and you're far away from your base. But nobody in the Western Hemisphere has direct military, let's say, alliance with China and Russia, and is very close to their border that they can help if need be. Like if right now Trump attacks all of the Gulf of America,
Yeah,
all the countries in the Gulf of America, okay, nobody's gonna come to help them. And I feel really sorry for everybody that's in Mexico and Central America and the Caribbean and maybe even Venezuela that are going to be attacked, because I don't know if they can last 15 months like Gaza, to tell you the truth. Do you think Mexico, with all its military equipment being 100% American, how can it fight the American army if the American army is not supplying it with weapons? Okay. Similarly, this Panama, we remember me and you were aware when, Ortega was taken out. It took like, a couple of days, it was all over. From the first day, almost, it was over. So what is Panama going to do to fight off Trump? It can do nothing. And will China and Russia come to their aid militarily? I don't think so.
yeah, they can't.
And what's going to happen in the other Central American countries? There's no Cuba of the 70s that's on 80s and or a non-alignment movement in the world that was supplying the Sandinistas and others with weapons to fight the American invasions. So he is smart. If he takes over all this territory, nobody's going to come for the defense of them. And I wish the best of luck to all our Latin American brothers and sisters. And I hope they actually surprise us all, like the people in Gaza surprised us. And I hope they can, drag the empire into another sandpit.
Trust me, they don't want to go fight in Venezuela. I've been there. I understand Venezuela. Venezuela armed its citizens. Armed them. They got millions and millions. That's one of the reasons they want to attack Venezuela, because that's one of the things that Chavez, did, train everybody to fight. If you remember in that Bay of Piglets invasion, where all of those mercenaries came in and the fishermen saw them. But people there, they have these light tan jumpsuits that they put on. That means you're part of the militia. They got their guns and they shot them and took the rest of them. So anywhere you go in Venezuela, if you attack them, every last person, you can't walk the streets. You can't drive the streets if you're a military occupier, because everybody will shoot at you. I was out in the hills with the poor people. I'll never forget these little women, and they were yelling. I couldn't understand them. One woman could speak English, and she was shaking her fist saying, "You tell the Americans we will defend our democracy." And I'm like, you don't want to go in Venezuela. They don't want to go in Venezuela. They're going to get the same thing. Trust me, they do not want to go in, and they know it. And those people are proud. So let's get back to this. They told their people that we killed. They literally said we killed 80% of the Hamas and the resistance forces, 80% of them. And now the same Israeli citizens that were celebrating, yay, we're blowing up people. I saw that there were people going in, interviewing them, saying, what do you think? Oh, they're all a bunch of terrorists, kill them all. You know, they were very cocky, they were very arrogant. They felt they had the empire at their back, they could just mercilessly slaughter everybody, right? And now they're stunned and they're seeing these videos. And the people of Israel are realizing we thought we were dominant and a power. And oh, the only thing we had was a lying government. We were defeated the whole time. All of the bodies, you know what else they got to find out? How many soldiers they lost, how much equipment they lost. Now all these people that aren't going to come back, and they're going to be saying, where's my loved one? Where's my son? Where's my brother? Well, he was lost in the rubble in Gaza. He was lost in Lebanon. He ain't coming back. It's going to be very unstable, very unstable in Israel. They're not going to be able to fight anybody else because that place is going to come unglued. I don't know how they hold it together. But
Yes, yes. So obviously the images were a indicator of how powerful still Hamas is. The three Israeli prisoners, female prisoners, were brought out from Jabalia, which was destroyed completely. There's not one standing structure in Jabalia. And the Israelis were occupying that area for over 3 months. So that was an indicator of how much of a failure it was, the gathering of information and the military operations of Israel. Remember, even Yahya Sinwar was killed by accident. They didn't, really find him. They just walked into him by accident, bumped into him. So that shows you how much of a failure of intelligence it is, the battle in Gaza for the Zionists. And to see all of these Palestinian resistance out in the open in the tens of thousands within hours of the ceasefire coming into effect and taking control of all the traffic and starting to rebuild and control the entry of aid and what have you. All of those were indicators that it was a total failure, the operation of the Zionists, and that the resistance has rebuilt all its capabilities in terms of recruitment and training to fill in for how many number of their fighters were killed. And we compare that. Of course, you spoke about those gifts that Hamas gave to the three Israeli prisoners, and they were, everybody looked at them. They looked healthy. They spoke to the media saying that they were not mistreated, that they ate with the guards that were with them, that the guards would take them out to walk around and have fresh air. And in comparison, and they were released in the middle of the day to the Red Cross. And what we had instead on the other side was the Israelis releasing 90-something Palestinian women and children and withholding them and torturing them the whole last day, and only releasing them after midnight, and after beating and shooting tear gas at the families coming to meet their loved ones that are going to be released, and refusing to allow the Red Cross to be involved in the process. It was, and then we saw all the abuse on them and the fear in their eyes, and they all said, many of these Palestinian prisoners that we interviewed on Free Palestine TV, you can go look at these interviews, have said that they were threatened by the Israeli authorities that if they speak to the media or if their families celebrate their release, that they will be punished, that their family members will be killed and or put in jail because of that. So even the exhibition of joy by the Palestinians in itself is a defeat to the Zionists. This is how much they fear even the expression of joy by the Palestinian people.
Yeah, it's things aren't looking good for them. Syria, what's going on in there? Update us.
Well, Syria is a hellhole right now. Every day we see videos of Syrians being tortured and or killed by the Wahhabi death squads. Uh, the average is around, between 200 to 600 a day that are being lynched and killed across the country. Um, they've been targeting artists lately. I've seen multiple videos of famous artists, musicians, and or actors that have been abused and or killed by the Wahhabi death squads. I've seen even videos of regular cafes, people with musical instruments, just kids, young men and women uh, jamming in a coffee shop with these HTS goons coming in and beating them and beating up the women and taking them to undisclosed locations. I don't know if they're still alive. There's also a armed rebellion in the coast, in the mountains, and the HTS got a beating there in the mountains of the coast, which required the Turks to come in full force. The Turkish military right now invaded the coast of Syria, Latakia and Tartus, the main coastal cities, and they're trying to go up into the mountain ranges to suppress the rebellion in the villages. But it's going to be a tough job for them. But that shows you how unstable, number one, the HTS government is, but also the you know the theft that the Turks want to commit in Syria. It doesn't only go to Aleppo; they want to take the whole coast. But also, there's it's been now 5 days of battles between the Kurdish militias and the new government in Deir ez-Zor and Raqqa province. The Americans seem to have backed down from giving constant support to the Kurds. It seems like there's some new deal with Trump coming in with Erdogan. Maybe Erdogan will get to crush the Kurdish rebels in the northeast of Syria, and the American bases will remain. Just in the last 3-4 days, no American air cover was given to the Kurdish militias as these Wahhabi militias are attacking. So the country is in shambles. In the south, the Israelis today and yesterday were building new bases in the southern parts that they're occupying of the country. So it looks like they're making their presence more permanent. They probably will want to need to bring in air defenses just in case something happens in the south of the country.
Okay. Well, and I guess a lot of things remain to be seen as to what's going to happen. And, we should all, be ready to support the Syrian people and what they're going through. We will see what's happening. I suspect, it wouldn't surprise me. It wouldn't surprise me if Trump says we're pulling the troops out of Syria or we're pulling the troops out of it. I think the empire is going to try, try to circle the wagons and try to say, let's shrink in our area. That's what we can control. In the same way, if you look at it, one quick thing with the Panama Canal, Russia and China are building some new route that goes through like the Arctic Sea, so they won't have to use these other routes. And I think they may not have to use the Panama Canal. You know what I mean? But so Russia and China and Iran has signed where they're going to have this route with Russia that goes through the Caspian Sea. I think that not Trump, the controllers of this money are saying these people are setting up their trade routes and all that kind of stuff. And they're going to own and control openly the trade routes in their region. We got to own and control the trade routes in our region. I think they're going to back out of Syria and leave Erdogan. I think Erdogan's going to be sorry. I think a lot of the West are going to back the heck out of Syria and leave Erdogan. As they said, the old Pottery Barn rule, you broke it, you fix it.
Oh, yes. And you can see him, how he's talking to the Europeans about Ukraine. well, this is what you want to defend Ukraine, well, you pay for it. Okay, similarly, right now, for the Saudis or the Turks, you want to hold Iraq and Syria and Lebanon, well, go ahead and do it yourself. You can buy weapons for it. I'll give you the weapons. Pay
Yeah,
up for it and do
yeah.
it. I'm gonna go and occupy some other place. And
We'll
look,
be in Greenland.
yes, Greenland is actually about blocking that Arctic route.
Oh yeah, yeah,
Okay,
yeah, yeah,
he
yeah.
wants to create a fortress of North America,
Yep.
and then that's gonna block the Arctic route. And then he's gonna take the Panama and Mexico. That's going to block the Central American route for the Chinese and so on. So once he does that, and if he's able, of course, these are all big ifs. And again, we don't know if this is all a ploy. I have no idea, honestly, with this guy.
Right. Yeah.
So if he does that, it's a new world, and he's right when he says these things. It's a new world. It's a new America. It's a new century. Yes, he's going to be one of the presidents that will be forever remembered. If he does 10% of what he said in the opening speech, if only 10% he does, it's a new world.
Yeah. You know, the interesting thing Trump said, we're going to have the most powerful army in the world. But the good thing is we won't have to use it because we won't go to war. I'm going to be known as the peacemaker. That ain't just Trump saying that. There's people saying, nah, let's calm this thing down and make money. The heroic aura that hangs over Yemen is not going away. And Yemen apparently has said, yeah, we're going to turn it. We'll stop going after ships, except the Israelis. They still got theirs coming. They're going to have to make a deal with Yemen. They're going to have to do something to make a deal with Yemen because Trump doesn't want to be bombing and getting a fight. He doesn't want to fight Yemen. They got bigger fish to fry, right? I think they're going to try to make some kind of a deal. And who knows, the big money people may say to Yemen, what do we need? Let's get a deal. We'll help rebuild you. We'll help you extract your oil and make money, things like that. I think they got to make a deal with Yemen because Yemen is not going to allow Israel to continue, the West to continue violence, and they don't act on it. Your thoughts on what's happening with Yemen, what they're doing, and of course the world looking at, people around the world looking at Yemen as heroes.
Oh, yes. So Yemen decided that they will stop attacking the Zionist colony directly. They will stop attacking any shipping except that is going to the Zionist colony and that is associated with it until the end of the ceasefire, 45 days between the resistance in Gaza and the Israelis as a monitoring. And if the Israelis actually abide by the ceasefire, they're going to stop by the end of the 45 days attacking shipping going to the Zionist colony. So, they are definitely the last one standing until the last moment with the Palestinian people. And this is an honor that none of us on this planet have but them. And they have shown glorious heroism and a path for anti-imperialism and sovereignty for the rest of humanity that can follow. Imagine that Panama has a few of their drones and or their hypersonic missiles or cruise missiles, and the American ships try to come to the Panama Canal. What will happen to them? Panama can do that. It's a small country like Yemen. It's a poor country like Yemen. It could do that with just a little bit of sovereignty in their mind. Even Greenland, if a few indigenous people that can survive in the wilderness of Greenland decide, no, we're going to fight an invading American army, what's going to happen to the American might, those weapons that we see crapping out in the fields of Ukraine, are they going to do better in Greenland? They're not. How many polar special training forces that the US has in comparison, let's say, to Russia? What is it going to do fighting a few Inuits on skidoos and that can eat seals and whales all year long, in the wilderness. So there's possibilities for every nation that wants to seek true sovereignty and independence from imperialism to follow the path that Yemen opened for all of us. And we can frustrate even the plans of Trump, no matter how actually better plans they are than the former emperors.
I think you're right. What do you think? What do you think of the Iran-Russia deal? I think that's going to be end up part of that. I mean, here's what I thought was interesting: that the Russians are going to build nuclear power plants for them. I think that the Russians, I'm just going to, as an example, the Russians come in to build nuclear power plants. The Russians say, we're going to provide all the nuclear material for Iran. Iran doesn't need to build any of their own, and they get a new nuclear deal. And the U.S. says, okay, we're done. Bye. You know what I mean? It's another way for the U.S. to get the heck out of the area and to stop. We're not threatening Iran. Okay, the Russians going to give them their nuclear material. The Russians going to build their nuclear, whatchamacallit, thanks a lot. They shake hands. That's part of the deal. They walk away. And because Russia and Iran right now, they're focusing on economic stuff. And I think wherein the Biden administration focused on bashing everything to pieces, this is going to be, how can we extricate ourselves from these disasters and go home and focus on economic stuff? Iran, Russia, your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, clearly Russia is trying to, on the one hand, assure Iran, because of the mess that happened in Syria and the quick Russian withdrawal, collapse of that alliance. Remember, Syria had already also signed strategic security agreements with Russia, and they didn't pan out. And the S-300s that the Syrians paid for and were not allowed to ever use. So I don't know, if actually Russia will deliver on these things. Remember, Iran had paid also long ago for S-300s and S-400s, and they were never delivered. Similarly, the Sukhois that Iran paid for. But it seems like clearly Russia wants to assure Iran in this moment that it will not do the same as it did in Syria, and that it will come to its defense or aid militarily if the empire tries to attack it, or at least make the attack much more costly. I will be waiting to see those weapons being delivered, because part of this new agreement that they signed was these S-400s and S-500s and Sukhois bombers and fighter jets. And once they are delivered, I'll believe it. Up until now, I feel still Russia and China, they're fine with negotiating with the US as an equal, but Russia at least does not really want a rise of a full multipolarity. It's better right now for them to continue to be tripolarity, China, Russia, and the US. Because of the other poles that could rise are too close to the borders of China or Russia, like India, Iran, Turkey, Egypt. The US doesn't have anything near it other than Brazil that could be a competitor in a sphere. So this is why I feel like the Russians, didn't want the Zionists to be defeated fully. What happened in Syria is part of that.
I also think that it is very important, I think, for Russia. I don't know if you've been that new, is it the Baltic Sea or the Caspian Sea? There's a new route they've got going through Russia and Iran, and it's going to use river systems and all of that. I think that's going to be critical for Russia. I think Russia and China both are husbanding their resources because they're like, the US is after us and we got to protect ourselves first, right? And so the things that they're doing are to protect themselves. You know what I mean? And I think that they need Iran right now. They need that. They're all looking at trade routes. They're all looking at routes to move goods in case, because the Biden administration clearly were setting up to dominate the trade routes and things like that, and to try to block off other people. And I think they're looking at that too. So I think basically, in a nutshell, all these countries are kind of looking out for their own interests right now. And we've got to, like you said, things are changing. They're dynamic. And you know what I find interesting? Everybody predicting what's going to happen. And here you and I are saying the same thing. We don't know what's going to happen now. No. You know what I mean? We got people like, well, we know based on the past that they're going to do this. Netanyahu's going to do this. Russia's going to do China. And we're like, that ain't working right now, because we got to watch and figure this thing out, because it's obvious that decisions were made, and that they were imposed upon Israel. Israel didn't, these decisions were imposed upon Israel. And the Israeli supporters were. I mean, what about all of the Zionists in Europe that usually lose their mind? None of them are saying anything anywhere about Israel's been defeated, and the world knows it. And in fact, the Palestinians are celebrating a victory. They're in the streets holding up the victory sign. And the world's like, they're celebrating. And the Israelis are like, hey, they're celebrating a victory. And the people in power are saying, you will be quiet and you're not going to say anything. I know it. You know it. This is not even about a victory anymore. Something's up, buddy.
Yeah. And look, there right now, look at the trade maybe that happened and why it's Russia is rushing to do this route with the Caspian Sea, because there was an axis of resistance with Syria in the with this land path: Iran, Iraq, Syria, Lebanon. Now you have a wall of imperialists from Greece, Turkey, Syria, imperialist territories, Jordan, Saudi, all the way to the Emirates. Now that's blocked the whole old Silk Road that the Chinese wanted to reopen. So the routes now have to shift a little bit more east, and this is the that are safe from imperial control, and that's the Caspian Sea route between Iran and Russia. So Iran's importance as a knot in the transportation hub that China and Russia want to build became more central. So Russia has now more interest in making sure Iran doesn't fall in the hands of the imperialists, because there's no other out to the world if Iran is gone for Russia. In terms of the south and of the world, like otherwise Russia only has Arctic ports and the Baltic Sea and the Atlantic, but it will be cut off from the rest of the south of the world. Maybe the deal was Russia gives up Syria and the United States stops the genocide in Gaza. Okay.
And gets out of Ukraine, because they're getting
out of Ukraine.
They're getting out of Ukraine. It seems obvious, doesn't it?
Yes. So it's bad, but it will give us a reprieve right now from the ongoing genocide. We don't know what's going to happen in the West Bank, which we didn't talk about, but last night, the Israelis began conducting a huge campaign. They're calling it Iron Wall, and they're attacking Jenin and Jenin camp from the air, from the ground. They blockaded all the Palestinian towns, cities, and villages. Everybody's locked up. There's tens of thousands of Palestinians stuck since last night on the roads between the towns and villages because they're not allowed to move in their cars. They're stuck. And the colonists in the West Bank are going on a rampage because of their frustration that the genocide ended in Gaza. They're attacking villages, setting them on fire. So at any moment, also the situation in the West Bank could explode. And no matter what Trump wants, or no matter what his local vassals like Netanyahu want, things could get out of control at any moment again, whether it's the ceasefire here in Lebanon or in Gaza. So we are living in a very unpredictable time. And we're living basically the Chinese curse of may you live in interesting times. And so add to it, of course, the Machiavellian way that Trump works, which makes him very unpredictable. I think any analyst that tells you I know what's coming is lying to themselves and to everybody else. All I can put forward here is the acts, the things that are on the ground, and saying these things could happen. Don't know if they're going to happen, but these are the possibilities, and none of them are positive to anybody anywhere in the world.
Yeah. It's weird. I mean, the timing was the Ukraine conflict, and the US was bogged down there. The empire was bogged down there. And at that time, the Palestinians struck. You know what I mean? I mean, there's no other time that they could have struck. And like I said, notwithstanding the reality that they took great losses. Yes, and it was great. But it was like when the time was right, the empire was bogged down, they struck. And the Russians kept the empire busy, and the Palestinians just struck. And Yemen, I mean, they came in. And when the empire was busy, because you couldn't take the empire on when it's at full strength. You're not going to take it on because it's brutal and it's got too much horsepower. But it was busy, and it was worn down for 2 or 3 years. It's running out of gear. The people here are tired of war. At just the time when the empire was at its weakest, wham, the resistance struck. And we saw, the pagers and while the empire was like, oh, we got a good hit on them. And you saw Syria, oh, we got a good hit, but the empire was just too weak to hold up, it appears to me. And they struck them when they were weak, and they kept striking them. And at some point, the empire had to fold because it was a matter of hitting them when they couldn't really handle it. And at times, even you and I, we got our heads down. Oh my gosh, the empire is going to win. But it appears that whether it was a plan or not, they struck the empire at its heart, which is Israel. You know what I mean? They didn't find a base somewhere. They went to the very heart of the empire, and they struck it with everything they had, and they continued to strike, and the empire eventually couldn't take it and folded. I mean, that's my interpretation of things.
Oh yeah, look, let's take that pager attack and the decapitation attempts on Hezbollah. It's very sad days, the loss of Sayyid Hassan Nasrallah.
Yes.
But you know what? After they did all of that, and they attempted to invade the south of Lebanon, and for 60 somewhat days, the resistance of Hezbollah that's supposed to have been decapitated, destroyed, all of that, held them to a standstill, and they couldn't occupy 1 inch of the land. So it actually exposed their defeat and their end of their prowess completely, because they used the most filthy way of fighting and the most brutal way of fighting possible, and they still couldn't win. So there's nothing else they can do to the Lebanese people in the next war, for instance, or if it breaks out at any moment again. What else can the Israelis do that they didn't do already? Nothing. So it exposed them that the maximum of their power is incapable of defeating the will of the Palestinian people, the will of the Lebanese people. You can destroy a nation or a state like Syria, but you will never hold it. It's going to be a mess for you, and we will fight you even in Syria under these conditions of 15 years of total siege on the people and starvation, and where they're still fighting today. It's the empire has lost everything, their capabilities to at least project their power in the region for the foreseeable future without full brutality. And I don't think the US can do this, what they did in Gaza, again in the region.
One last thing before we go. They got another big problem because and I believe this was a great fear, now that things are opening up and people are going to be allowed to go in, the world will see the devastation, the bodies. The world will see what happened. They've been able to hide it. Oh, you can't. But I will say this: the resistance forces have had a phenomenal, I'm just going to use this word for lack of something better, media, not public relations, media capability, the ability to get the videos out and get information out, interviews out, has been absolutely incredible in what they've been able to do. But now that the world is going to come in, there's going to be a second humiliation. I think a far greater humiliation for Israel, as the world will come in and people who even supported Israel will have to look at it and say, oh my God, what is this? Someone has to be held accountable. The empire will have to fight off the accountability, not just for Israel, but for the Biden administration. I think the people like Trump, the empire will have to wash its hands of that and blame it all on Biden and Blinken. You know how they do. They're just going to find a couple people, they'll blame it all. But your thoughts on the upcoming humiliation of the empire, the upcoming struggle to hold off accountability, because now and I think this was their fear all along of ending this war, that people would come in and see it, and now they can't hide it anymore.
Oh yeah, and people are already coming in, and obviously the Palestinians in Gaza are returning to was their homes. 95% of all structures destroyed, and the whole futures of the land changed. So you don't even know where the streets are. You can't tell where your neighborhood is. But those who are coming and finding their homes, they're finding skeletal remains of Palestinians that were killed by the Israelis. The many skeletons I saw with shots to the head. And so we're going to see the full scale of this genocide. I think the actual number, once the authorities in Gaza are able to do a census again of how many people died, not whether it's directly and or indirectly through the inavailability of medical treatments and or food and so forth. I think the number is going to be over 300,000.
Yes.
And so, those images that we're seeing right now and we saw over the last 14 months have been etched in our heads, from the smallest child to the adults on the whole planet. It's like, I don't think even the images of the Holocaust that we used to be shown when we were kids in schools and so forth are as effective as what we saw as educational process on the genocide in Gaza. It's the most documented genocide, and I think nobody on the planet doesn't know about it and sees it as a genocide except the freaks that are lying to themselves and to the rest of the world. So there's no turning back. There's no going back, actually. For Israel, Israel has already written its own end. And nobody wants to do business with an Israeli. Nobody wants to be related to an Israeli. Nobody wants to see any Israelis or Israeli flags anywhere in the world. And it's just about how long will the empire put all its resources to maintain this colony. And I think we're already seeing the beginnings of the empire starting to pull back its resources from defending this outpost. And therefore, as I said from the beginning, if one component of the empire ceases to support the Zionist colony, it's going to collapse. So it's coming. It's coming, I hope, very soon.
Yeah, I think so. Look, as you've said, I didn't think about it. If they've got friendly governments or governments they can control with the Gulf states, Israel becomes a liability. Liabilities get eliminated. You know, if Israel becomes a liability, which has become a liability, and will become more of a liability as the world starts to scream at the top of their lungs about what they're going to see. Zionism means nothing to them. These people are all about money. That's all. Well, Laith, don't forget, everybody, go to freepalestine.video. That's Laith's great website. They also have a YouTube channel, but you can go to the website. You can check out their video, but you can make sure you share that website on all your social media platforms. And when you share the site, make sure you put a note for people asking people to donate. They got a donate button. You can become a monthly subscriber. So everybody, please go to freepalestine.video and help Laith, be a partner with Laith for some really, really good work. And not only that, wait till you get there, freepalestine.video. You're going to love the site. You'll be back all the time, all of the video. You just can't get stuff like that in English language anywhere else. Thanks a lot, Laith Marouf, and we will talk to you soon. All right, everybody, we're out.